The wake-up call came at 4 a.m. Barbara and I were in Prague, and we had a 6:30 flight to Paris, where we would change planes, terminals, the whole 9 yards, and then board one of Delta's new wide-body jets for home. Our vacation was supposed to be floating the Seine from Berlin down to Prague. The problem is there wasn't any water, and it's hard to float when there's no water. We made it by bus, slept on ships at night. It was an interesting time, but not what we had planned. On the way back, it was that long journey that I always dread, because I do not do cramped flights well. In Paris, we boarded the new wide body. I sat in the middle seat on the aisle where there are 3 seats, crammed between Barbara on one side and a college student on the other side. In the center of that wide-body plane, there are either 6 or 7 seats. I'm not sure which. And in our case, directly across from us was a family of 5, including a 5-month-old child. You can see where this is going. I tried snoozing and did pretty well for a while. And then all hell broke loose. The 5-year-old woke up. The infant then woke up. The 5-year-old had to go potty. The infant screamed loud. And it went on and on at decibels you would not believe humanly possible. Finally, the mother dug around in her carry-on bag and came up with this piece of cloth, blue, dirty. And that 5-month-old grabbed that cloth and shut up. It was his security blanket. Why it had not come out sooner, I don't know. But I was grateful. I was grateful. When I got up to go to the restroom, I looked around the plane, many of whom were asleep. But the interesting thing was that almost everyone who was not asleep had their own security blanket. It's a cell phone. Everyone was looking at their cell phone. Pictures, recorded TV things, who knows? In Gainesville there's a restaurant, and I've mentioned this before, but once a year somebody takes Barbara and me as our accountant, takes us to dinner there. It's the best restaurant in Gainesville. There's a big area for the tables for 4, but on the side there are 4 little booths, each with a little table and 2 chairs, and they're for couples. Maybe couples celebrating an anniversary, a birthday, couples in love. Not long ago when we were in there and sitting in that middle area, I looked over and all 4 of those little booths were filled, each with a couple, each with a cell phone in front of them. They were not speaking to each other. They were looking at their cell phones. And I have decided it is the new security blanket. Carry it everywhere. When you're bored, take it out. Look at it. Today in our Old Testament lesson, the prophet Hosea, who lived in those times in Israel's history when the country wasn't being threatened by some neighboring power. Not only was there peace, but there was relative security. But the prophet Hosea was not happy. He proclaimed, "You, Israel, were my children. I brought you into the world. I nurtured you and clothed you. I loved you as my own child. But you have turned your back on me." Hosea predicts that the result of forgetting whose they are will be the nation's downfall. In the gospel for today, Jesus is continuing his journey from northern Galilee down to Jerusalem. He's stopping in various towns and cities along the way. His reputation has preceded him. People flock to hear what he has to say. They know the rumors that he is able to heal the sick, and they bring the sick and infirm to him. The crowd gathers around him, and a voice calls out, "Rabbi, make my brother divide my inheritance with us. Divide the money with me." Now, inheritance issues in Israel in that day and time were considered religious nature because wealth belonged to God. And often the local rabbi was also the one who adjudicated discrepancies and issues of inheritance. It was Jewish law that the eldest son received 2/3 of the property, a double portion, it says in Scripture, and the rest is divided between the other males. Females, wives, daughters, what have you, got nothing. Make my brother share the inheritance with me. And Jesus replies, "Who made me an arbiter over you?" But then he goes on, looking at the crowd, to address the issue of avarice. Avarice. He tells a story. He tells a story about a successful businessman. He has a problem. He lives from what the land produces, all of its crops. He has storehouses, silos, warehouses. But this is a super abundant year. The crops are double, triple, quadruple. He has more crops than he has storage. He says, "What must I do?" And then he comes up with a scheme. "I will tear down all of my storage facilities, my warehouses and barns, and I will build new ones twice the size. And I will store all of this abundance. And then I will sit back and relax. I will enjoy life." He mentions drinking good wine and eating fine food and just simply enjoying his wealth. Sounds like the ideal to many of us. How many times have you said, either silently or aloud, not only to yourself but to someone else, "I can't wait. I can't wait until the kids are grown. I can't wait until the mortgage is paid. I can't wait until I retire. I can't wait." Janis Joplin sings our theme song. "Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz?" There is much to admire about our wealthy landowner in the story that Jesus tells. He knows a good thing when he sees it. He expands his facilities, takes advantage of the good crops, builds new warehouses, purchases more land, takes advantage of the increasing market. There is nothing inherently evil about any of that. There's nothing wrong with success or wealth. Not as Jesus told. The real issue is, who do you think? Who do you think? Let me make it real clear. Jesus nowhere does he condemn wealth in and of itself. He was able to pursue his itinerant ministry because he had some wealthy backers. Folks who were generous in their giving to him. Now, this is not about wealth being evil. There's nothing in Scripture that says that it is, in and of itself. It's about what you do with it. Read that story again in your leaflet when you go home. Nowhere in that soliloquy that the rich man has recorded there does he say anything about anything other than using pronouns. It's all about I, me, and mine. My brilliance, my wealth, my shrewdness, all about me and mine. Now, Jesus isn't saying anything negative about the investment or the wealth in and of itself. It's about something called hubris. Hubris. Latin word for pride. When that landowner talks about what he will do and how he's going to do it, he uses the pronouns me and my 9 times. It's all about him. And then he says to him, you fool, tonight you will lose your soul. And then Jesus asked the question, who will get all the stuff? Have you ever sat down and considered what all you have and made a decision about who's going to get what? Who gets all the stuff? Now, Scripture doesn't condemn wealth per se, nor does it make light of adequate planning for the future. That we're all called to labor. We're all called to be resourceful. We're all called to be generous. So do not cancel your appointment with a competent estate attorney. Remember the church in your will. Remember the ones you love. But I'm here to tell you a truth. A truth. You nor I own anything. We may have title to something, but in the end, we do not own anything. My son-in-law reminds me of that old Jewish saying, there are no pockets in shrouds. There are no pockets in shrouds. All that I have, all that you have has been given to us. It is on loan. It is for our use, our enjoyment. hopefully our sharing of it. Life insurance is valid. There is no death insurance. It's all about what's marked on your forehead. That invisible cross that was given to you at baptism when you were proclaimed a child of God. That's your inheritance. It's my inheritance, who we belong to. In the epistle for this morning, Paul tells that little band of followers at Colossae, so if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things on earth. For you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. That's what baptism is about. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with Him in glory. I keep preaching it. I keep preaching it. A reminder to myself as much as to you, it's not so much who you are, but whose you are. And you can take that to the bank.